So it's late and I'm bored. Don't really feel like playing any video games, even though the Retron is sitting right there. I used this board as an example of bad caps a while back, as you can see. Those are blowed out. That was blowed out. The rest don't show any signs, but without an ESR meter, there's no way to check them anyway. But what I'm going to do, because I'm bored, and I'd like to practice my soldering skills, since I haven't used them in a while, I'm going to take this old A7N8X board. It's got an old Athlon in it. Probably an old Athlon, like what, 1400, 1200, something like that. This was pretty much the king's board, if I remember right, back in the day when they came out for the Athlons. Had the enforced 2 and all that in it. Problem with this board is the Southbridge chip went bad in it. Quit working one day, and when I pulled it out of service, this has been years and years ago, but when I pulled it out of service, you couldn't even touch this chip, it was so damn hot. But I was looking around, and these are 3300 at 6.3 volt, and this board happens to have a whole crap load of 3300 at 6.3. So, and these are all Nichicons, and these are Nichicons, but these Nichicons failed. And since this is an OP4 board, and I'm not going to spend any money on it other than wasting supplies to, do the solder work, I'm going to pull these old capacitors and repurpose them into this P4 board and see if I can bring it back to life. Because I know this board's dead as a doornail because the Southbridge chip burned up in it. I think a power supply failure caused it, from what I remember right. But so we're going to pull these, and I think there's a couple of 1000 at 6.3. Gonna probably pull 1 or 2 of those because this one's bad here. And this board's dead as a doornail. It won't do nothing because of the cap explosions, of course. Well, we're gonna transplant these caps to this board and see if we can bring it back to life. Probably won't do anything with it, but it would still be fun to bring it back to life anyway. And I have a really honking AGP card I could put in it. Not that it would do anything. So we'll be back after I do the job and see if it works. Alright, so there's our donor caps from the bad old NVIDIA board. And here's our little P4 board. We've already took the bad caps out of there. And that one there. And there they are right there. They're pretty wrecked. So we're going to take those caps and drop them in here and see if we can get this board back to working. I'm not going to show how to solder. If you want to know how to solder, there are plenty of good tutorial videos on YouTube. The reason I don't do it is because I just don't have the camera rig to do it with. I do most of this with my phone, and I do have a small little HD camcorder, but I don't really have a good tripod or anything for it, so have to do with make do with what I have. What I'm going to recommend, if somebody out there like me wants to do this just for the hell of it, or if you have a newer board and you want to fix it, you're going to need some flux, because you're going to need something to get the heat transfer into this crappy solder that they use from the factory. And I recommend a 45 watt or hotter iron to get to melt the old factory wave solder that they do on it. And a pro tip, don't do what I did earlier, which is stick my finger on the freaking thing and burn it. So let's get these in and see if we can get this whole P4 back to life. I think it's a 3 gigahertz P4. I don't know if that'll focus or not. No, it won't. Well, maybe it will. Yeah, I think it's an old 3 gigahertz P4. Might even be hyper threaded. Hell, I don't know. Find out when we get it back running. Alright, so we got our salvage caps in off the other old dead board. So we changed that one and we changed these. Now I gotta go find the heat sink for it. dig up a power supply, a graphics card, and a couple sticks of memory out of my old junk supply and see if this baby will fire up. Thing probably hasn't been fired up in, hell, who knows, 10, 15 years. I got it as part of an auction lot from a police auction, and it was in the bottom of the box. Alright, well, we got it. CPU in. I forgot how nasty the CPU stuff is that Intel used on these original chips. Because I remember back in the day when you got to take these particular heat sinks off, that stuff was like glue, the heatsink compound. When you'd let these latches loose and you go to pull it off, you would literally pull this and it would pull the CPU up out of the socket even while it was locked. So I like to never got all that crap off of there. So there's your caps, the ones we pulled off the old board. There's the other cap there. We'll put a gig of memory in it just for the hell of it. I went and dug up an old 20-pin ATX power supply, an old High Pro, guaranteed to blow the shit out of something before it dies. Cheap Chinese crap. And I dug my old Battlefield 2 card out. I bought this card just to play Battlefield 2 back in the day when it come out. Old 7800 GS monsters. I think I paid like $250 for this thing when it was new. Holding on to the AGP days before I finally relented. And just to go for the hell of it, we got an old Western Digital 40 gig that still kicks. Had it for hellishly long time. What's the build date on that drive? November of 2000. And since we don't have a power switch, we gotta do it the old-fashioned way with a screwdriver. Video card fan running, CPU fan running. Hey, check it out, it's alive. New capacitors brought it back to life. Well, not new capacitors, used capacitors, but sees the hard drive. Looks like the CMOS battery's dead. I have no idea what's on this hard drive. Probably nothing. Something's loading. It's like Windows 7, which will probably crash. Yep. Focus, damn you. So it needs a CMOS battery, but it is alive. 33C on the CPU. Still don't know whether this is a hyper-threaded core or not. Got no idea actually. Well, anyway, let me get an OS running on it, and then we'll see if it's actually stable or not. Well, there it is, up and running on Windows 7. Windows Update's kicking its ass. And that's what it is, an old 3 GHz hyper-threaded P4 block heater. So after getting it up and running, I discovered that the network jack is stone cold dead. You plug a cable into it, nothing happens. No status lights or anything. Windows sees the controller just fine, just shows that it's disconnected. So I don't know if it's something in the jack or something in the Marvel LAN chip down there might be bad. I just happen to have this old Gigabit D-Link, which also happens to use the same Marvel chip. Had it laying around, so I just stuck it in there to let it run. Probably won't do anything with this board, but it was just a fun project to get back working. I'd like to get that LAN back working, but who knows? It's possible that the gaps could have blown something up that controls the LAN, or it could be down here where I'm at in the lightning capital of the world. It could have got hit by lightning, but I've seen and replaced many Ethernet cards that got hit by lightning. And usually not too long after that, the whole system will start to fall apart. Things like sound will quit working, and PS2 ports would quit working, USB ports will quit working. But anyways, I guess that's the end of this project. Old ass Pentium 4 block heater. This was the last of the socket 478s, I guess, and then the 775 come along, and they made several of the P4s then, and then they went to the Pentium D, which was dual core Pentium 4s, and then they figured out that net burst architecture was going nowhere. Wasted all those years chasing megahertz with net burst while AMD kicked their ass with 64-bit. Hell, even the Athlon XP kicked its ass for the most part. But anyway, I guess I've mostly recycled this board using parts from another dead board.